Good afternoon, legends. We're less than 2 weeks out from the first round of BBL Supercoach for 2024-2025. And I just wanted to jump in and get through a team structure video because a fair bit will change over this couple of weeks. We get final knowledge on who's available for round one. We start getting some ideas on where players are going to bat, who's going to make the team. So things will change, obviously. But structure, I think, is going to be, hopefully, very, very similar to what I've got right now. Aside from if Mr. Glenn Maxwell can't make it and isn't fit enough to bat and bowl in that first game. And if he's not, then he'll come out of the side and we'll make amends with a few other guys as well. But what we're looking at, there's a couple of things up top that we want to be looking at. And someone I'm potentially looking at is Mr. Bo Webster as well. I think he's a decent chance of making it into this side here, as well as guys like Aaron Hardy, who was actually in the squad as well. I don't know why that didn't select just before, but guys like Hardy, and if Maxwell isn't there, it's definitely going to be someone like Webster, and we'll muck around from there. But we do need to look at round one and the two double game squads that there are in the Renegades and obviously the Stars, and filling up a lot of your starting 12 or 11 with those guys. But we do have to take into account round two, where we do have the strikers on the double in that round and also the Perth Scorchers. So both those sides become very, very important. And when you're looking at both rounds, I think you need to look at both rounds as a whole. Round one, how many guys that are playing double games are absolutely guys that you want to have in your side and you're very, very confident in them as a double game player? You look at it and you could potentially be pretty confident with a Webster, a Tom Curran, a Maxwell, from the Stars. And from the Renegades, you are looking at a few just straight up batsmen. You're also looking at a few of these cheaper bowlers as well. But the thing to think about with their bowling unit is if you have 3 or 4 bowlers, because we're looking at Fergus O'Neill, Zampa, Tom Rogers, Kane Richardson, these types of guys here, Will Sutherland as well. Obviously, Will has the dual, which is helpful on that front. But if you're looking at multiple of those guys, then they do have a bye in round 3, and you have to look to be able to remove at least one of them or potentially a couple of them heading into that round 3 bye. So structure-wise, there are a few things you need to look at. You can't just stack your whole team with Renegades because of that bye that they have in round 3. But there's also not a heap of Stars that you'd look to push the chips in on to get you through the first 4 rounds, because we saw last year that they are a team that can be pretty fickle in their order, apart from guys like Webster, apart from guys like Maxwell up top. They can struggle a little bit. And then the bowlers, they were a little bit hit and miss as well. And we picked up guys like Steckity at times, and that didn't work out at all. Osama Mir came in from round 1 last year and he did a good job. It looks like he'll be in here from round 3. So there will be some makeshift bowlers as well. And that's where I think that if Hamish McKenzie gets his opportunity, he'll slot into my side. At this point, guys like Joel Paris are fairly cheap. If they manage to get a spot on this roster from round 1, I do think he will be fairly a guy that people will jump to as well, and maybe he fills that slot that I've got missing there. Let's just look at some of the guys that I have penciled in here, and I am going for 2 cheapies at this point. 2 39.5k guys, and they are Jake Doran and Sam Constas. The reason Constas is in at the moment is I actually think he'll get a good couple of games. They could even start with him. He picked up 100 off 90 balls in the Prime Minister's 11. He can play some decent T20s. Obviously, better in from what we've seen anyway, at his young age, better in the 50 over stuff, and also the longer form of the game. Just hasn't been exposed to enough T20 at this point, at this age anyway, through first grade and obviously through Big Bash. He hasn't played yet, so yeah, you don't get too much T20 cricket in first grade. And when he has played, it's been solid, but this is obviously a next step up as well. But a lot of people are going for Salzman, and just mainly because of the duel. I think Constas has more chance of playing than Salzman, and that's why I have Constas at the moment. But that could change depending on how round 1 lines up. Or if Constas ends up over the next couple of weeks firming into a test spot as well. So yeah, there's a few things to think about with that one, but Salzman could be the other alternative. And the reason we want 2 cheaper guys is I think with the shorter season, again with that round, the 9 rounds, less teams on doubles, we do need to get as many really strong players that we can be comfortable in playing on these doubles and even on these singles as well in our teams as possible. And when you've got 12 players, 11 of them counting, I think he can have a little bit more of a risk in terms of getting those strong guys on the park. So they're two cheap guys at the moment. A couple of the players I'm super confident on going into round one is actually Tom Curran at 152k. For that double in round one, I think he's going to be one of the best scorers. If Maxwell doesn't play, then Tom could easily be a captaincy option there as well. Webster, I mentioned, as I'm pretty confident on to start, and I think if I can find a way to get him in, then that would be ideal. But at this point, we do need to find some cheapies to come out. When I've got 6 players left for 651k, you're looking at a tick over 100 per player. So Webster would be one I'd be looking to target to slot into that last batting slot, but we do need some more cheapies. If we do happen to get like a Jordan Buckingham at 39.5k, do I slot in another, a Kane Richardson at 97? Do we get a Joel Paris, these types of guys, as an option in that cheaper standpoint? If we do, I'll be able to slot that extra guy in. But just at the moment, I can't fit him in. But I am looking towards round 2 as well. When you're looking at Jai Richardson being very, very cheap at 130, you've got Hardy and Overton, the 2 best double game guys outside of Matt Short. And where we're at the moment, Maxwell will be moving to Matt Short come round 2 if I do go for this style of play here. So Matt Short can be the captain in round 2. And I just find it too difficult to grab both from round 1, especially when I'm finding it difficult to get a Webster in at 170 odd or whatever it is, 160 odd, 164.7 into my side there. We've got the other cheaper guys looking forward to round 2, and that's Henry Thornton. So at the moment, sitting there with Overton, with Hardy, with Richardson and Thornton as my 4 double game guys for round 2, and then looking to potentially boost or at least max trade to get those guys in my side and have sort of at this stage 7, 8 or 9, depending on how many other guys, if it's Buckingham and the like, that I can get into my side for round 2. That would be the general thought there, is to spread the 11 playing players that we take their scores from, probably having 8 and 8 or 7 and 8 across that first 2 weeks, just to get as many double games on the park as possible. But we want to get the right ones, the guys that aren't going to potentially hemorrhage cash or have too low scores in them, which we could see with a few of the batsmen in some of the teams. When you look at, we've obviously spoken about the more important teams in my team analysis, in Renegades, in the Stars. When you're looking at those as a starting option in your bat section, you'd be fairly confident with Webster that he can do a good job, but he's also in the test setup. Tim Safar, you're not as confident on. Tom Curran, you are, but it's guys like Laurie Evans and Fraser McGurk that you'd be taking a bit of a punt on, and then Will Sutherland as well in that mid-range there at 128 to 136. And then you're looking at Joe Clark for 1 round at this point. Do you take a punt on Josh Brown at 112? Like, he's definitely a guy that you could take a punt on for the Renegades and get that double, and then see how he plays. If he doesn't go too well, you can move him on. If he is doing well, hold him for that buy in round 3 and get that double in him in round 4 as well. And then you're into the cheap guys there. So, Marcus Stoinis is someone on my list that if, nothing really comes up, then Stoinis will be in my side at 84k. It's just too cheap. And we know he can pop off at times. It's very rare at the moment, but he definitely can pop off, that's for sure. In terms of bowlers from those sides, again, there's not too much you're looking at. All of those guys we mentioned in the batting section, they're jewels in the bowling side. And I was looking at Osama Mir, and it's a shame that Jacob Bethel won't be there, given he's now doing pretty solid work in the test squad and batting 3, surprisingly. But then you're down to all of those Renegades guys that I mentioned, and Boland's going to play this test. You doubt he'll be around for the Big Bash. And then it's Paris, it's McKenzie, it's these types of guys there. So sometimes you can look at these and go, it's not too great of options. So in that case, grab yourself a striker, a scorcher, these types of players there, and they'll be that double for you in round 2 instead. It's not like you can get 11 in both weeks. It's not going to be possible. You have to get a good side in the park anyway doing that way. And if you do, you're pretty cooked, I think, for the following rounds, because you'd probably have a lot of Renegades, and then filling the rest of the bench guys with guys that might not even play from strikers and the like. So yeah, it's very, very interesting the way that you need to think about setting up your Big Bash sides heading into round 1. There's lots of different ways you can do it. You could be loading up for round 2. You could be loading up in round 1 and hope to get your 11 double game guys, and hopefully it's high scoring games, and it just falls the right way for you in that round 1. But then round 2, you're going to score a little bit less than the rest of the pack. or you load up for round 2, or you try to keep it somewhat balanced in the middle there, with an eye or two on round 3 and beyond. So some people might look at the Jack Edwards, the Philippi. If you're looking in the wicket keeping slot, you might be looking at a few Brisbane guys, whether it's a Renshaw that might bat near the top of the order, or Jimmy Pearson. These types of guys there from the Heat. Some people might start with Big Tall Paul, the GOAT from last year. So there's definitely a bunch of different ways you can muck around with this. Some might start with Maxwell and Short. If Maxwell's not there, they might just start with Short and captain like a Tom Curran or a Webster. These types of players there, and each team offers something different with prices as well. So you've got in round 1 and 2, the 2 most expensive guys in the game. So they're going to be very important as doubles. But then as it goes on for the rest of the season, apart from, you got round 3 is going to be Maxwell again, and then round 4 is going to be Matt Short. After that, then there's a lot of guys from different teams that could provide some value, and you could be using those big dogs to trade to them as well. So there are plenty of things to think about. We're going to find a lot more out over the next week or so, especially. I just wanted to give you a little bit of a thought to show you where I'm at in terms of my structure and what I'm trying to accomplish. And again, I've mucked around with a full team, but none of that's exactly set. There's no point going through that yet. Like I had Osama Mir in there recently, and with him, it's been confirmed now he'll be back from round 3. So he had to go, and then you're mucking around with things too much. So I just want to get into the core. I'm going to try and make sure I can get Webster in the side somehow for that round 1, and make that round 1 team as strong as possible with a lot of those top guns that we can rely on, or feel like we can rely on. If he's not going to be in the test setup, set up a little bit for round 2 with Overton, with Hardy, with Richardson, with someone like Thornton as well, and just fill the squad with some guys that are cheaper, like the Mackenzies, potentially Buckinghams, even the Stoinuses and the like there. You have some people looking at Ashton Turner as well. Those types of players there that could do a decent job. If we don't get anything really, really cheap, or someone clear sticks out and makes their way into the squad that has somewhat of a decent schedule. Because there are teams that you probably should just not target at all for the start, and that's, you're seeing no Hurricanes, apart from Doran, but he's a looper. No Hurricanes, no Sixers at the moment, no Heat at the moment, just because I'm not set on those guys. A couple of those guys might join my team. I've been looking at Pearson, Renshaw, as I said, but guys, from the Thunder aren't super exciting to be looking at as yet. And then you're looking at guys from Adelaide are going to be important. Renegades, Stars, Perth, and then Sixers, Brisbane, round 3 double to go along with the Stars. Then you've got the Thunder and Hobart. You should definitely not have really any players from them unless they're a looper, like I said, with Constance or Doran on that front. So I think we'll leave it at that, guys. Pretty short and simple on the team structure setup. Let me know where you're at. Is there anyone that you're fading from my big dog group that are going to be in that round 1 or round 2? Are you looking at Overton or a Hardy, who are some of the better scorers in their position, that have the duel, that have that consistency? Are you looking at them from round 1, or are you looking to just really get on a bit of a spending spree come round 2 and leaving a bit in the bank to be able to get to those guys? So let me know how you're tracking and what you're thinking about in that, and we'll see you in that next video where we go through all the rest of the teams.